Hello and welcome back to another episode of Baseball Night. I'm your host, Tom Brown, joined as always by my brother Jack. It is Friday morning, March 7th. I'm back from the DR, Jack. It was lovely, if you wanted to know. I didn't bring my glove. Not a lot of fields on the
Interesting.
all-inclusive resort. Didn't go with anyone that's going to indulge me in a game of catch.
It's just gonna say
So
not a catch enthusiast group.
no. So, that was a bummer, but now it's time to focus up. You know, I
hmm
texted you and Tim yesterday
hmm
when you mentioned who was out during the Celtics game. I was like, you know what? For the Celtics, they're going to be the 2 seed. Everyone stay healthy. Don't get your teeth knocked out. Just stay healthy, get to the playoffs. So now it's
Every time Derek White loses a tooth, he gains powers. Like I'm convinced.
So he so get the Celtics to the playoffs. That's where my mindset is. So now we need to buckle down and start looking at baseball. It's the only thing we can do as two humans, two human
Responsible
males.
humans. And I mean, we're in the thick of it. I mean, spring training couldn't be more popping off. And every morning is great. I follow a bunch of beat writers, not only for the Red Sox, but all around the majors, just to see their weird angle smartphone shot videos of people playing, and I love it. I love every bit of it.
Yeah. Um I said this, I skeeted it, I think, that so sometimes we bring Red to a doggy daycare when it's just like today's going to be hectic. Let's just not have him in the house. And um I, I can go online and look at a live stream of what's going on at Doggy Daycare. I don't do it. Sometimes I do it for the girls will watch it, but
Yeah.
why can't the Red Sox have that on their backfields?
Hmm.
Can like 9:30 is live BP. I don't care the quality. I don't care the if it's the 1950s batters behind the plate angle. I just want to see. I want to see yesterday Rafael Devers took BP, and I think it was
Yeah.
against Giolito. So
Giolito,
I want to
five
see
at
that.
bats against yeah, 5 at bats against Giolito and 5 against minor league pitchers. I did see like the one he took Giolito deep, and I forget which writer it was, but they said this was his best swing in the 10 plate appearances I saw. Um, and you're exactly right. It's not like football where you're not like practicing plays that might give somebody the advantage there. It's just you could put that out. You could put a streamer out there. Like they have the bullpen cameras now, to see if your guy's warm or how he's doing. We
Yeah,
could have that. Each a camera on each field.
right. And I don't know. It's not like it's spring training. You're getting reps in, whatever it is. It's out there. There's press. You don't have to hide anything.
Yeah, and I mean I hate to give the idea because I know they'll pick it up and run with it, and I know they're probably listeners, but I mean
Sure.
FSG Nesson could probably charge, $5 a month on that for
Oh, they would.
yeah. Put that behind a paywall for sure.
Um, as reports yesterday, they cut a huge section, the whole editorial section of Nesson. Um, so it would um it would just be great. But some things that are going on right now, because it's kind of just like this guy's playing, that guy's playing. Devers hasn't played yet. He was supposed to play in his first game Wednesday. It got pushed back because he said he didn't like his timing and wanted more live at bats in live BP. So right now, I think the biggest thing going on, other than what we touched on last episode with the third base situation, Bayo might not start the season. He might start the
Yeah.
season on the IL. He's behind because of shoulder inflammation or something. Which shoulders secretly, Tommy John surgery is like the big injury. Shoulders are worse.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's just inflammation. Like as a shoulder impingement survivor, it was just a little bit and it went away, and then you get your juice back. But um,
Yeah. Okay. Um,
Well,
Yeah, just I mean, it is just basically like seeing who's playing. Like for a while, there was a story that Christian Campbell doesn't have a hit, and I'm going to tell you what, if you bit on that, there might be a problem because in the first 2 weeks of his first big league camp, Christian Campbell didn't have a hit. I
mhm.
mean, probably reading a little deep into that. Uh,
After report like his first live BP session, he squared up a 100-mile-an-hour fastball from
yeah.
Chapman. So it's like, what are we complaining about
Then
here?
and then the other thing too is what I like to see is Alex Spire, Stats Masterson, and
Yeah, call him by
Pete
his
Abe,
actual name.
Jen McCaffrey. They're really good at skeeting out updates that like include not only what they're done, like who's pitching, who's coming into the game when it's not on TV, but also saying like Garrett Crochet pitched 3 innings. He had his full pitch arsenal working, like everything looked good. Like that's the kind of update I want to hear that pitchers are getting their work in. I don't care how hard they're getting hit. If they're using all five or all four of their pitches in their start, that's I want to see them mixing it and feeling good. And I mean, Garrett Crochet hitting 100.9 in the last week of February. That's cause to be excited about seeing him pitch every fifth day.
Yes, very much so. And then Chapman's hitting that, which, that's what he does. But
Liam Hendricks
I
is
think
up there
both,
now too.
yeah, I think both you and I are a little like lukewarm to,
We'll
oh, I got
see.
to heat my coffee up on Chapman.
This could use
Um,
30 seconds in the microwave.
yeah. So we'll see what happens, but if it falls into line that like he's a setup guy or a it's tight in the seventh inning, get Chapman hot because the lefty's coming up. That's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, if
Um,
a motivated Chapman throwing over 100 is still a very good pitcher. I do worry about his command issues because they've been steadily
yeah.
creeping up over the past couple of years, but I I I think they're in a good spot. And I mentioned this in our text group. The fact that Liam Hendricks came out and said, I expect to be the closer of this team and I expect to win that job, that's just the attitude I want out of a crazy Australian closer.
Yeah, he was I read this morning that he doesn't love what he's doing right now because he's hit 96 but sitting 94, but he hasn't pitched in 2 years because he beat cancer and then tore his UCL. So he
Yeah.
just said I need to find the right mechanics to kind of get myself right. And he said, plus, when I come into my first game, the adrenaline of actually being back in a regular season major league game should be good. But
Yeah.
uh, so the question is, who would kind of fill in that fifth spot if Bayo doesn't start the season? And honestly, like if Bayo's
Oh,
first appearance is the end of April, I'm fine with it. Like and I'm sure the way Cord is saying it, he's saying he'll be ready when he's ready. They're not, why push your 25-year-old guy you just inked to a deal, 26, whatever he is. And so Quinn Priester and Richard Fitz, but I'm sorry. His name is Dick Fitz.
yeah, they really try to push that Richard on you.
It's not going to work for me.
If the dick fits, say it. But
How we're not number one on Spotify doesn't make sense.
so anyways, yeah, because Cutter with a K is also starting the
Yeah.
year on the IL too, so that he's not available. I think Quinn Priester might be there. I'm excited to see. He's still so young. Like I think he still might be one of the youngest players in their organization, and he has major league experience, albeit with the Pirates, and he kind of got shelled. But I like what he's done in camp so far. So that might be a good candidate there. Um, but yeah, interested to see who that fifth guy is. Um, Also, I'm not crazy about this. I think you know that, but Cora has in the past expressed at least the flexibility to go through a bullpen day or a six-man rotation. So that could be very interesting if he doesn't go five-man right out of the box.
Yeah, Dick fits through 99, which I guess I didn't know he had. And he had a good outing in September at the end of the season. So maybe it's just him. I actually remember he that when that game started or was starting in September, I was like, "Do you guys?" Because they were out of it, season was over. I remember the text group. I had to say, "Do you guys know that the Red Sox are starting a guy named Dick Fitz?"
Yep.
It's it's just too easy. But also, if he pumps 99, I'll start calling him Richard if he wants it.
Yep.
If so, that's just a spot to keep an eye on. Bayo. He has thrown bullpens, and I think he threw live BP recently. Um, we'll just see. I'm more along the lines of 30 starts is better than rushing him for 34.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when he
28
gets
starts is
stronger
yeah.
and he gets stronger at the back half of the year. Um, I will say, Tom, and if you're still want to talk about the starters, I'm sorry, but Stats Masterson did have an article this morning where he pointed out Alex Bregman hasn't played a lot of second base.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if your plan was to start him at second base, you'd think that he'd practice it a little bit more. But ever since that first weekend where he was at camp, he's been taking all the reps at third base.
Yeah.
And with
And now
Devers
that
just
is
hitting, just now starting to hit, I mean, I think Devers is going to be ready for opening day for sure. However, I think this is going to be like a eve of the season Lawyer Malloy cut news, where it's just like, or even for more in context, when Cora leaned into the mic the day before Game 6 or Game 5 of the 2018 World Series, and he just goes, "David Price is starting tomorrow." Um, this is like, I think the eve of the season, he's going to be like Alex Bregman is our third baseman.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just Yoshida had a game where he had like 3 hits, went 3 for 3. People were like, the guy can hit. The guy can hit. Well, in my mind, Masataka Yoshida, I hope you rip up spring training and make yourself a little enticing. Because it just, like we said last time, he's just the guy that seems like he's the odd man out. You have an
Yeah.
unbelievably fast and incredible defensive outfield if you can just plug Duran, Rafaela, Abreu right around the horn. You're good. So, yeah, I think if Yoshida has a good spring and they can possibly move on from him, I think you're right. I think Bregman and if Campbell or Grissom has a good camp, it's going to be hard to be like, let's just not have a natural second baseman playing second base.
Yeah. Grissom's worked his ass off in the offseason. Like he doesn't look like the same player from all reports, which is nice to hear.
Are
Um,
you saying he's in the best shape of his life? Wow.
as
Good
is
for him.
tradition. um, but no, I think it is interesting what they do there and why they would, like you said, move a natural second baseman off that spot. Um, when I don't, Tom, it's interested to see there. And, again, I don't like it for Rafael Devers. Um, they've already done a lot to they're trading his best friend. What he said, like, please don't trade Xander or please re-sign Xander Bogaerts, and then
Yeah.
telling him all offseason that he's the third baseman, and then signing the Gold Glove winning third baseman. Uh,
Yeah,
so
you
I'm
don't
not
like to see
crazy
it.
about Devers' mental space going into it, and I hope it's okay. But um, listen, I think you're in the best chance to win if Alex Bregman is defensively your third baseman and Rafael Devers is worried about hitting and hitting alone.
Yeah. We have a big second half of the show, so I don't think we should focus on
No,
just
that's
kind
all
of
I
the
wanted to. I did read that article from Stats Masterson this morning, and I wanted to call it out because it is a really good point. Like, well, if your plan was to play Bregman at second, why isn't he taking any ground balls at second?
yeah. Um, Stomach bug is ripping through the team right now, so let's get that over with in spring.
Yep.
Then that's about it. One thing before we're gonna just time's catching up to us because the Japan series starts in like 11 days. Um, and so one thing we're gonna talk about is, or I wanted to bring up to you. I saw this yesterday, and this is just like this is the worst type of discourse about sports, no matter what sport, whether it's you can't touch the QB, no hand checking, guys in the 90s, there was a brawl every single game in the NBA. Barry Bonds came out and said anything that Shohei Ohtani does with the bat doesn't impress him because in his day, if you hit 2 home runs, you'd get one in the ear. And it's easier for a star these days. And it's just so dumb. And we are Bonds defenders.
Yeah, we're a staunch Bonds defenders. Couldn't be more aligned with Barry Bonds and what he did over his career. But then he gives an interview on All That Smoke, which is a shout out to an absolute fantastic podcast. Um,
They get
but
they get the sound bites for sure.
absolutely. But like, not a lot of people threw at Barry Bonds because he was the most intimidating hitter of all time. Nobody threw at Barry Bonds.
And
Maybe in the 90s when he was with the Pirates, but when he was all bulked out hitting 70 home runs, nobody threw at Barry Bonds. They threw around him. They knew if they threw it in the strike zone, he was going to hit a home run. Um, I don't doubt that Barry Bonds probably faced pitchers that hated him. But Barry Bonds was also an asshole throughout his entire career.
yes, no, like his legendary.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing, it's so easy to say this, but Barry Bonds faced, you know, Randy Johnson, Billy Wagner as guys that could hit 100. Now a lefty specialist that throws 100 with a nasty slider is coming in specifically for Ohtani, and he hit 50 homers and had 50 steals. Like he upped you in that specific thing. And also, I remember this being a conversation in the early 2000s, and it actually does seem to have switched a little bit. No one wore a bigger elbow protector than Barry Bonds. When
Yeah.
he was hitting those bombs and be morphing into the greatest hitter possibly ever, he had the biggest elbow guard
Yeah, he
and
stuck
stood
that
on top of the plate.
right on top. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
listen,
take
I
away
don't
from his talent. It's just I
know.
hate this old player saying these
Oh
guys
my
suck.
God, so do I.
You know what?
He
The
didn't
greatest,
say he sucked, but but
right?
yeah,
Sure,
but again, at like what point, like your father invented the 30-30 club.
right,
You essentially took it to the next level. There were some other players who did it, but you went 40-40 and everybody was crazy about that. So is it jealousy that Ohtani went 50-50 and said like, "Oh, it doesn't impress me"? Like I
right.
just don't get it because he doesn't face inside pitching. I don't think that's true
And
either.
and although this has been delayed, we'll touch on it soon. The man throws 100 miles an hour. I again, call it glazing, call it favoritism. This shit is so unbelievable still. He's like, oh, my, people saying my side quest, I can't pitch, so my side quest will be creating 50-50 is it's so true. I just hate it. The best video you can find, do a quick Google search. Larry Bird talking about the current NBA. And he in the video says, I hate all the old banged up, broke down players that I played with talking about the NBA now. And he just lists players. And he's like, have you ever seen someone come down the lane like LeBron James? Have you ever seen someone shot making like Kevin Durant? And he just goes on and on and on. And it's like, this is it. And obviously, it came from Larry Bird. So,
Yeah.
with that, Jack, let's preview the National League as a whole. Um,
I wonder if Barry Bonds is impressed by Shohei Ohtani's World Series ring
hmm
with the rival team that he was never able to beat.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm a Bonds guy. I don't want to judge him for one bad moment, and out of all the Barry Bonds moments, not the worst. So
Yeah.
you know,
There's some books out there.
there's
Um,
and there's also like glass houses.
hmm 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 Sure.
So
Yeah. Other
either way,
guys might have been throwing at you for various reasons.
Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame, and it's a crime that he's not. Let's end it there. Let's end our Barry
That's
Bonds discourse
perfect
on that.
little bow. All right. So we're gonna spend the rest of this episode talking about the National League. We're just gonna talk about some big moves, favorite teams. We're gonna start at the bottom and we're gonna go up from there. So very bottom, quick topic. Do you have anything to say about the Colorado Rockies?
Um, I think all home run derbies should be played at Coors Field.
Hmm. And that's a perfect thing to say. Um, Marlins, Nationals, anything? Nationals were exciting at the beginning of last year, but
That I think James Wood will be exciting this year.
okay.
He's a big prospect. There's also Dylan Cruz is there.
hmm
So there are some young players to get excited about in the Nationals. In the Marlins, I texted you straight up. I didn't need any group chat spin-off. I'm so excited that Sandy Alcantara is healthy in pitching.
Yeah. Yep. I can't imagine he's going to stay there if he gets back to his regular form.
No, I mean he's back. I mean he's already pumping 100. Like he's back. So every fifth day that will be MLB TV, no a no doubter on MLB TV.
Sure. Um, and then Jack, so based off Fangraph projections,
Mm,
um,
no love.
no, what's crazy though, the next two lowest teams are the Reds and Pirates at 78 wins, which is, essentially a 500 team.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
a little below, but yeah.
No, well, that's why I
Pirates.
said essentially.
The Pirates have some young players to get excited about with the O'Neill Cruzes and your Henry Davises. Um, and the most exciting player or the most exciting pitcher in baseball. I think the most exciting player in baseball might live on the other team. Um, well, the one with the most upside, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, it's low. I think it's low for the Reds at 78 wins. However, aside from Skeens, I don't know that the Pirates have the let's call it the cannonballs on deck to make a run at the NL Central.
Well, you know what, Jack? I saw an article, I believe on Fangraphs, that was talking about if you have Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, and Jared Jones, can you
Yeah, that's
please go
true.
get a bat? What? They made like no moves.
They don't have they're not a budget they're not a big budget team like spending all this money. That's not their game.
I know, but you can add something. You have
No,
these
I
guys
agree. Yeah.
pre-arbitration. Maybe Keller's a little further along, but Jared Jones and Skeens were rookies last year.
Yeah.
It's just, and we talk about this with our favorite baseball team a lot, Jack. I have a hard time when the team is owned by a billionaire saying that they don't have money.
Oh, I'm not saying they don't have money. I'm saying they're not a big budget team. Like they're not spending their money. As you
Right.
can see
That
with any player that comes up through their organization, does insanely well, Garrett Cole, Andrew McCutchen, and then immediately leaves for money.
right. No, I get it. It's just this is a chance to actually if you okay, here, how about this, Jack? Oh wait, never mind. I was on the wrong year. I thought the last move they made was in 20 oh, here we go. I was on the wrong page. I was looking and said the last move they made was in September and it was optioning Jared Jones and I was like, "What?"
Hmm.
But um they signed for bats and Tommy Pham, who
Yep.
he'll get traded at the deadline to a contender, and Andrew McCutchen re-signed. That's it, Jack.
Yeah, I mean their biggest bat, is probably Brian Reynolds. Didn't have his best year. Um, and then I mean, if you want to talk WAR, O'Neal Cruz is a 3.3. Uh, Again, these are you have O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Cabrian Hayes, maybe, and then Tom. It's just guys that. No offense to these guys, they're good major leaguers, but I mean, Isaiah Falefa, Tommy Pham, like Jack Skowinski, and I know he's young, but they're not carrying your team. Tommy Pham's not
Right.
carrying you to a World Series.
But you mentioned Sandy Alcantara or Alcantara. I'm sorry, I'm never gonna get it right. I don't know which one it is. Um, there's no draw uh in baseball high bigger than Paul Skeens when it's his day to pitch. No one.
Nope.
Even I'd say Otani, but it's different because he also bats. He can pitch and then lead off the next inning. So that's different. But if you're looking, you're like, okay, if I got a second screen going and it's Skeens pitching, you're just watching that.
Hmm.
So, Skeens, just something else.
Added a cutter this year too in the spring.
Oh,
So
good. That's good. That he needed that. Um, next up is the Reds.
yeah,
I'd say their biggest move is they hired Terry Francona.
get him back in the game, Tom. Get him back in the game.
I see, for me, when he retired, I was just thinking, I want Terry Francona to be healthy because he looked worn down.
Hmm.
And he got hired and it was no, I'm feeling good. I'm feel healthy. So yes, 100% agree. It is 2025 and I still think he should be the Red Sox manager. And they've won two World Series without him.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
do. I just
No, I know. I know,
he's
Tom. One of
such
them,
a good manager.
the 2013 World Series is such a crazy outlier because if you look at the roster and you look at the manager, it's just like, how? And then it's, oh, David Ortiz hit 688 in the World Series.
Yes. David Ortiz was on that team. And
Okay, oh, sorry, go ahead.
hit a giant grand slam to actually propel them to the World Series. They probably down
Uh,
2-0 to that Tigers team would not have been good.
so, I mean, we'll, we'll touch in on one of our favorite guys, I would say. Maybe mine more than yours, but in a second, when we get into their staff. But batting wise, a ton of young talent here. Ellie De La Cruz, basically Statcast's best friend for exit velocity.
Hmm.
Going into his second full season, had a 4.9 WAR last year, which is pretty decent. Can run, can hit for power. I just want him to just be a little bit more selective. Maybe the on base percentage will tick up a little bit, and you'll see more offense with his steals. But I mean, he's top of the lineup for a lineup that has Matt McLean, TJ Friedel, Spencer Steer, Heimer Candelario was a big acquisition that they got last year. CES, this is Christian Encarnacion Strand for anybody for the uninitiated.
I didn't
Um,
know he went by that, but cool, cool, cool.
and yeah, I think this is a good young team. Like, you know what it reminds me of, Tom?
What's that?
some decent to good starting pitching, an absolute stud at shortstop, and a bunch of young bats around him, they might be the Kansas City Royals a couple of years ago.
Hmm. But just come up short and be like a year away, are you saying?
Yeah, exactly. I think they might be a year away, or maybe last year they were a year away, and this is the year they have like last year's Kansas City run. So,
Maybe,
yeah,
yeah.
maybe just a little bit short, but
Well, if you
that's my major league comp.
the the Brewers lost some guys, so like who's to say? I mean, the difference between the Cubs' top projection in the NL Central and the Pirates' bottom projection is 5 games.
Yeah,
This is a toss-up division. So, all right,
always is.
with Ellie, it's safe to say he's not the best player in baseball, but when something's happening, he is the most electric.
Yeah.
He can throw the ball 100 miles an hour across the field. He hits the ball about 118 miles an hour. And at any moment, he is a threat for a triple or 2 steals, including stealing home.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
his rookie season, he did steal 3 bases on 2 pitches. So,
he's a highlight waiting to happen, which is fun for baseball because those type of electric athletic guys aren't very common.
no,
Yeah, and you wanted to talk about your boy Hunter Green.
that's the guy. You knew it. That's the guy.
Yeah, I
Steadily
know your
gotten
guys.
better since he broke out. And I mean, projection wise, he's up for a big year. And I think that with all the people that throw 100 like consistently, and obviously, I think Paul Skeens is a better pitcher, and he's one of these guys in that mold. Hunter Green pumps Ched all game long. And
Mhm.
by I say that, he doesn't go below 97. He's constantly in the 98 to 102 range the entire game.
Yeah, so um 10.12 Ks per nine last year, a 2.75 ERA. Um he walked 3.4 a game. That's not great, not terrible. Um do they have is that on? I was trying to see if they have whiff rate here because that's always fun because I feel like he has a great whiff rate. Um he's that classic old school. He was as a high school senior on the cover of Sports Illustrated because he was the top pitching prospect and the top hitting prospect coming out of high school. And then he just kept growing into a giant monster and throws 100. And yeah,
He's only 25.
and he
So
doesn't often throw other pitches. Or at least when he first came up, he was like, "Yeah, hit my
I'm
fastball if
a
you can."
I'm a pump Ched.
Um,
So he's a three pitch mix guy. He's got fastball, slider, and I think it's a splitter. But it's again, he had his best year by a mile last year. Um,
his
2.75 ERA coming
96%.
down from 4.82 is that's pretty big.
Yeah, his average fastball was 97.6, 96th percentile, and then his pitch split was 55% four seamer.
Hmm.
There you go. More than half the time he's going to say, "Please try and hit this." It's he's exciting. There are 2 very exciting pitchers in the National League Central. 3 if you count Shota.
I do.
Yeah. Pete. I think that's what he said. Shota goes by Pete because he would go to Starbucks and Shota was too much for people, so he just said, "My name is Pete."
It's
Guys.
fucking 5 letters. Figure it out, Starbucks people.
But also, Shota, what a guy. He's something. All right. Anything else on the Reds?
No, but just overall, I know we're going to talk about the other teams in the divisions. That's going to be a fun race because the team right above the Reds and Pirates with 79 wins is the Cardinals, who are
Well, yeah,
also in that division.
I was just gonna go to them. They're just, there. Uh, you've started listening to Rates and Barrels, right?
Yeah,
I'm not
shout out.
sure. Yeah, not sure if you've heard them refer to a player in Uh, fantasy baseball as oatmeal.
I don't think so. No.
It's just like it's oatmeal. It works. You're not wowed. You're not disappointed. And that's the Cardinals to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Wow. I think that's actually high praise. Um,
They're just who basically I'm saying like looking at it, unless Win breaks out, Newt Bar's good. Um,
he's fine. Yeah,
which Contreras brother is this?
Wilson.
Wilson. Okay, that's what I thought. Wilson Contreras is fine.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray, that's your ace.
It's not good enough,
Jordan
I don't
Walker just
think.
got hurt and hasn't completely reached his potential yet. Yet.
Nope.
And Arenado will probably be traded to the Yankees.
Arenado's definitely going to get traded. I hope it's not to the Yankees. Um, their best player, in my opinion, Tom, on this, is probably Ryan Helsley, their closer.
Which is
Um,
not who you want to be your best
no, you
player.
certainly don't. Not unless it's a Hall of Famer like Billy Wagner. But there's Alex Burleson, who had a nice season last year at 275 and showed some power. Um, And then there's Nolan Gorman, who I think might be their biggest breakout candidate. He didn't have a great contact year last year, but I think he's probably right there for breakout. But I don't think Arenado is going to make the whole year. And I just, as I'm looking at their roster right now, especially with Jordan Walker out, I can't sit here and say to you that I think they're going to be better than the Reds.
Yeah. Um, you Mason wins 22, shortstop.
That's good.
Had a
He's
had
a
a
good young
decent
player.
yeah, had a decent year last year. And it was his second, well, his first full year. Um, 267, 314, 416. I don't know. I mean, 15 home runs. So if Mason Wynn turns into a 20, 25 home run guy at short, great. Um, but yeah, I the weird thing is like they'll have 78 wins in the middle of September, and you're like, are they going to win 83 games? And what the hell? Why does St. Louis do this? But that all depends on the talent, the rest of how everyone else shakes out in the division. Uh, but yeah, just very, as our friends over at Rates and Barrels like to say, oatmeal to me. All
Yeah, I
right,
think they're a
next.
little worse than oatmeal. I mean, I see nothing. Sonny Gray, Miles Mikolas, and then, to be fair, a bunch of guys I just don't know on
Mhm,
their
yeah,
staff. And that's obviously more about me not knowing the players who pitch for them, but at the same time, nothing is jumping off of my Fangraphs projection page right here.
and they lost Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, who's in a decline, and I hope,
It continues.
boy, do I hope he has a bad season. I really
Uh,
like Paul Goldschmidt, but man, do I need him to have that here.
we're gonna get to him next week. Um, but yeah, I don't know. And no, it's really funny if you break down the projections again. Next team up is in the National League Central, and it's the Brewers, who lost their best hitter and their closer again, who we hope has a bad year. Um,
Yes, but I will say I think their best hitter is about to be replaced.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and I
Yes, they
mean,
have one of the most exciting players in baseball.
well, without question, who really towards the end of last year, you could
Jackson
see
Cheerio
it.
by everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And you can see it click in his head towards the last 2 months of the year, especially where it was just like, oh, I can do this. That's the reason they made me the highest paid player to never play an inning of Major League Baseball.
They
Um,
also have William Contreras, but
very good.
yeah,
Yep, very good
yeah,
player.
yeah, and especially as a catcher to go 281, 365, 466 with 23 homers is
Yeah.
you want out of a catcher. He almost had a 100-run season last year.
So they have a lot of good young players. They have Contreras, Churio, Bryce Terang, Garrett Mitchell, and Sal Frelick. Like they have a ton of good hitters that are young. Um, However, I've noticed with the Fangraph projections, they never tick up. Like they're always either around the same or declining. They never
Yeah.
really improve on a projection. I don't know if that's a cover your ass type deal, but I mean like Jackson Churio at 20 years old, who like I said started to figure it out towards the end of last year. I mean, they have him declining in the slash lines in every single one. I'm like, at some point that's he's gonna figure it out a little bit better. Like he's not gonna decline at every phase, but I just think I think this even more so than the Cubs is a super low projection for them as a team. Um, I'd be surprised if the Reds do compete with them on this level, but I think the Brewers are a good team. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. Their thing is they just, in the past 2 years have lost Corbin Burns and Devin Williams.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
Brandon
yeah.
Woodruff's good.
Freddie Peralta.
Freddie Peralta's good. So who knows?
I
They
mean,
might just be like, we weren't going to pay them and we like the guys we have.
Nestor Cortez for Devin Williams is a ripoff.
As a Red Sox fan and a staunch Yankee disliker, I agree. And now Devin Williams goes right in there and Yankees are changing their hair and beard policy.
Oh, that's right. I listen to now that we're in the habit of just calling out all these other podcasts, I do listen to Rich Eisen, and he had correctly pointed out that well manicured beard is just a terrific fantasy baseball name.
Yeah, that's very true.
But yeah, I
Um,
like this. I like this team, and again, Freddie Peralta fits my criteria, and so does Brandon Woodruff really for MLB TV.
yeah. I mean, you could get those guys match up against Skeens. That's a great matchup.
Yeah, that's a great game.
Even
Especially Jerry
Jared
Jones is going to
Jones.
be good. He's going to be really
Yeah.
good too. Um, but yeah, big on Jackson Churio. I like the fact that Yelich is kind of their DH now. Veteran presence, obviously a former MVP. Early in the season, he was really hitting on all cylinders. I don't think he's ever going to go back to MVP level, obviously, but just a good veteran bat in there.
I just clicked on him. His 2018 and 2019 seasons were out of control.
They're wild. He was.
He
Imagine
was
at
so
one point
fucking good.
Yelich, Stanton, and
Ozuna of the
Marcell
Braves.
Ozuna were the Marlins outfielder.
I don't get
Oh
it.
boy.
It's over and over again. I don't know how that city can't attract fans. But I mean, even their basketball fans are fake. But um,
I don't want any heat culture coming down on this podcast.
they're it's all fake.
Oh,
All
there is
right.
none. Oh,
So the
there is none.
next
That's right.
the next two preside in the NL West, and it's the Giants with 81 wins and the Padres with 82. We'll start with the Giants. They got the Brewers home run leader from last year. They signed Willie Adames to a big contract.
Yeah, they did.
They added him. They added Justin Verlander. By the way, it's so strange that Buster Posey is just running their team now. That seems like it was a handshake deal when he retired. Like pretty soon, can I just take over for a guy who was pretty successful here and Farhan Zaidi? Um, I believe that was his name. As their old, uh,
Yep.
I don't know what it is, director of player personnel, GM, whatever the hell you want to call him. But you have so now you add Adames. Chapman was really good last year, and then Eloy Ramos
Helio.
was Helio.
Helio. Yep.
Well, I read an article about him because he fucking bashes that someone said, I predict he will be the first right-handed hitter ever to get a splash hit, and then he did
Yeah,
because he's a
I remember that.
monster. He 22 homers, 269, 322, 469. Just
Yeah, just
only
somebody I'm excited
25.
about. I'm excited about the grandson of the wind coming back. Uh, Jung Hoo Lee. He
Yeah.
only had 106, 158 plate appearances last year. He is the only guy I've seen so far that Fangraphs actually has him ticking up in every category. Um, and everybody that's saying, you know, or every article that I've read is basically like he's a new signing. He's essentially brand new. Like I said, he only had 160 at bats before he got hurt. Um, Transfer from the KBO 2 years ago. Uh, Again, we didn't
Only
get to see a lot of
26.
them. Yeah, let's let him eat, man. The biggest thing I want to say about spring training, and I don't even want to say it, knocking on all the wood. My favorite part of this spring training so far is there haven't been these like widespread injuries across the entire league, and I hope that sticks throughout the season. Obviously, it's impossible to think that, but like early in the year last year, it was like Jung Hoo Lee gone, Spencer Strider gone. All of these guys were just out early, and it took away so much entertainment. And I'm excited to see what this kid can do. Uh,
Well,
Although,
can we do something first?
yeah, sure,
When you said grandson of the wind, I did not know what you were talking about. Can you please elaborate on that?
sure. His grandfather and father both played in the KBO. His grandfather's nickname was the Wind. So his
Oh,
father was the son of the Wind, and then obviously we've transferred to the grandson of the Wind.
you might not get a better nickname than that
No. I
because
mean, I'm gonna say I think his father's is a little better because it just takes
yes,
away that one qualifier. But
but I didn't know where you were coming from with that. And for me, I was like, this might have something to do with Asian culture, and I fucking love it. It just has that sound to it. And it's chef's kiss. I love that. Um, but anyways, you were gonna make a point.
well, the point I was gonna make is there are good pitchers, Robbie Ray and Logan Webb, Kyle Harrison and Jordan Hicks in their starting rotation. I will say, unabashedly and unapologetically, I'm excited to see what Justin Verlander can do. I'm excited to see
Mm,
what Verlander looks like at age 42,
42, yeah.
trying to see if he still got it. I mean, what I think it's gonna be a little reminiscent of is maybe Randy Johnson's last run in San Francisco. Like he's not chasing 300 wins, but I do think it's kind of like go there and see if he can have. I don't think he's going to have a Blake Snell year and win the Cy Young, but certainly I think it's a city that and a team that he can just go pitch for and maybe help Logan Webb. So I like the move, and I'm excited to see him pitch. I've always been a huge Verlander fan.
Yeah, yeah, Father Time catches us all. So I don't have my hopes up. But
Say
you're
that
right,
to Tom Brady. Now, is
Jack.
Verlander on the TB12 method? Probably not, but I'm just saying.
Jack. You got a one of one there. And I you're talking about a Hall of Fame, no doubt Hall of Fame pitcher, but there's
Oh,
there's
first ballot for sure.
there's levels to that
I
um
understand.
penthouse.
There's actually only one person who's coming close, and I really sometimes I like to consider myself a hashtag witness, but LeBron is encroaching on some TB12 territory.
Sure. Um yeah. So we'll see what if Verlander has anything left in the tank. They did, as you mentioned, they lost the Cy Young winner from last year. Um, that's about it. Michael Conforto, they lost him. He's just a guy that you're like, okay, he's playing right field, that's fine. So, um, yeah, we'll see. They are tied with the San Diego Padres for 81 wins, who everything is a little bit of a mess in Padre land right now because there's a dispute over the team between the former owner's widow and his brothers, and they're fighting about that. But
Never
they
good.
still have they still have Manny Machado and someone who I might be mentioning in my awards prediction in a couple weeks in Fernando Tatis Jr. I think
Wow, you're stealing my move.
he is he hasn't had the like gaudy 2021 numbers, but that dude can still ball.
Just flat out play baseball. Just
I
flat
love
out play the game of baseball.
I love him. I have done a complete 180 on Machado, and I think we talked about this last off
Yeah, we
season
did.
or last summer. He's a dude, and the guys in baseball know he's a dude. Like other major leaguers are like, no, Machado is one of the guys.
Yeah.
And my post childhood Nomar Pedro Ortiz favorite player is on this team still. And I love Bogarts.
Yeah. They also have a guy who hasn't struck out in almost a calendar year. So
Yeah,
with Luis Arise.
sure.
He's not gonna carry you, but it's just fun to see what he does.
Not to
I
mention
can't
Cease, Michael King, and Yu Darvish and
well,
Nick
yeah.
Pivetta.
Okay. So I can't believe they're only at 81 wins because this is a team that consistently competes for the NL West with the Dodgers. So like and a guy you didn't touch on, Jackson Merrill had an
Yeah.
unbelievable rookie year last year.
I was just looking around at the depth chart laid out here, and I was like, oh, I didn't mention Jackson Merrill as a rookie
So
last year.
it's and again, let's give credit where credit's due to rates and barrels. If you want to go your rule of five here, Tatis, Merrill, Machado, Bogarts, Arise, and Crone Zone. That's six. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd take that. I'd take that every time. Those are six guys who I know it's projections, but are all projected to have over 600 at bats. That's
And
pretty good to plug that in every single day.
here's a fact. If Jackson Merrill comes up with the chance to win the baseball game, he's going to.
Merrill Mania, as Don Orsillo would scream into a microphone.
He is so clutch and a great center fielder. I just opened his
Yep.
page and I was like, oh shit, he had a 5.3 WAR and a 130 WRC plus. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And he was a rookie. So, and he was a 21-year-old rookie, so he's 22.
Yep.
Yeah, there. I agree. Well, 81 might be low, but um, maybe. Yeah, I don't get it. Maybe they're thinking a little less for Machado, which again I just don't see because Machado has been around forever, but
Guy
he's only
produces.
32.
Guy produces.
Oh my God,
You
yeah.
know, Tom, I
Oh,
think a lot of the crap we heard about Machado was stemming from his altercation with Dustin Pedroia, who, you know,
sure. Mach-
we have our thoughts on.
Machado has 1,000 career RBI and 342 career homers. This guy is
He's
just
up there,
quietly
man.
chugging along towards a Hall
And
of
like
Fame
you said,
career.
he's only 32.
So if he has a couple more 30 home run seasons, now you're talking late career. Is he going to get to 500?
Which would be, again, even more impressive because right in the middle of his career, COVID.
Yeah. God, that that what it did to people's numbers pisses me off.
Yeah, Juan Soto.
I
Juan
mean,
Soto, Manny Machado, those are guys who are really going to suffer from that.
worldwide was probably worse, but what it did to
Way
baseball
worse.
players' career numbers pisses me off.
Can't be
Um,
understated.
so yeah, I
But yeah,
agree. I think they're going to be really good.
you mentioned Cease, King, and Darvish. That's a
Hmm.
pretty good big three for your pitching staff.
And I only mentioned Pavetta. We watched them pitch, but he is going to a much more pitcher-friendly park now than Fenway Park.
Sure.
So maybe he gets a little bump from that, but who
And
knows?
you know it. Sometimes Nick Pivetta is absolute nails. Like sometimes the curveball's dropping 3 feet and he's dialing it up to 98. Like sometimes he pitches really, really well.
Yep. Next up, we have the Cubs, who are projected to win the NL Central, which we spent a lot of time on. Um, they went out and traded for a very, very good hitter in Justin Tucker. No,
Kyle
that's a
Tucker.
kicker. Kyle Tucker. Justin Tucker's a
Justin
kicker.
Tucker's really going through some stuff this
You know
offseason.
what? Probably a bad guy to bring up.
Yep.
Yes, they got Kyle Tucker. They got Ryan Presley. They got Ryan Brazier, who the cheating Dodgers made into a very substantial pitcher. I only say that because they turn every pitcher into a good pitcher. I don't actually think they cheat. Jeez, take it easy, everyone. Um, and they have Shota Imanaga.
Yep. Who is their clear cut number one. But just going down the list here, Kyle Tucker, huge addition. Lieutenant Dansby Swanson, still there.
Mm-hmm.
Nico Horner, who is a very exciting young player. He's a good hitter. Ian Happ, who is really kind of a surprising power guy.
Mm-hmm.
PCA and Seiya Suzuki. They have, again, young guys who can hit. And now a certified number three, number four hitter in Kyle Tucker, who many times last year you and I discussed as one of the best players in baseball that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah. Um, he what did he get? Um, MVP consideration like 2 years ago
Oh yeah,
because he
for
was hurt.
sure.
He broke
Yep.
his leg last year. Oh, that's not what I want. I want baseball reference. Um, but as we were mentioning Pete earlier, um, the Amanaga, I don't think allowed a run for the first 10 starts of his career. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but
He was
um,
nasty.
I think he got hurt in the middle of the year. But he is a guy. He is a real guy. Oh yeah, he was 2 years ago. He was fifth in MVP. Kyle Tucker. The Tucker. I think it's so close and such a toss up in the NL Central that Kyle Tucker really
Yeah.
makes a difference.
He could be, yeah, he could absolutely be a difference maker. I mean, and I expect, I know we're huge fans, but I expect Shota Imanaga to have a better season than he had last year.
Hmm. Totally. Um,
Justin
sec-
Steele, too.
yeah, he'll be healthy. Monaga pitched, yeah, it was his first season, 15-3, 291. This guy. Um, so you can only expect him to be better. You mentioned Steele. Jamison Taillon is just, you have no problem if he's a middle of your rotation guy.
Good
Matt
3 or 4 guy. Matthew Boyd's there
Matthew
too.
Boyd's, mm, he's meh. He's been injured a lot
Yeah, but I
recently.
think the guy that there's a lot of pitchers listed here, but I think the guy that everybody thinks is expects to break camp is Ben Brown. Um,
Hmm.
he's their prospect, and I think that he might get a look and has a real shot to make the team out of camp.
Yeah, and then Ryan Presley to close it down. Like they went out and got a closer. So
Yep.
them being projected to win the Central kind of makes sense as you go through the roster. Next up, you have the Diamondbacks, who I think both of us might agree might get back to the playoffs after 2 years ago they went all the way to this World
Won the
Series.
pennant. Yep.
Um,
So, I mean, Corbin Carroll is a guy, Tom. Corbin Carroll's
mhm,
a guy. He won the Rookie of the Year. Little bit of a sophomore slump, right?
mhm,
Did stay on his kind of 20 plus homers, 100 runs, and 70 plus RBI for a top of the lineup guy. Really good. Um, Played in over 150 games. Just just the guy that you're going to build the team around for the foreseeable future. He did it 231, so it was a pretty big drop off from 285 where he hit his rookie year. So hopefully that ticks back up. Fangraphs have him coming back up to like 260, which would be great for him. But in lieu of Corbin Carroll's a guy, but the best player on their team and a guy who is creeping up into maybe the most underrated player in baseball is Ketel Marte.
mhm. Yeah. Um, That's a guy that just kind of goes 30-30 every year.
Hmm.
Um, and
36 home runs, 93 runs, and 95 RBIs last year. 30-30, I don't know about that. He had 7 steals.
oh, my bad. I thought he was a little swifter than that. Yeah, wow. More of a power, just a flat out hitter than I
Yeah, he's a hitter.
expected.
And I mean, for second base, come on.
And they have an ace in Merrill Kelly. No, not Merrill Kelly. Zach Allen. Oh wait, Jack, this team signed Corbin Burns. So they have
Yep.
two aces.
Yeah, I have 2 aces. I mean, Eddie Rodriguez is a great back end of the rotation guy too. With Brandon Fat, and then they still have Jordan Montgomery, who had the Boris special last year and it was not ready to go to the the Diamondbacks, but he'll be on. I don't know if he'll make the rotation or be in the bullpen, but yeah, Merrill Kelly is good. Zach Gallen is better. Corbin Burns is way better. So
And they lost Christian Walker but traded for Josh Naylor,
yeah,
who
that's a
was
good little. That's
other
definitely a
than
good addition.
Jose Ramirez was the only offense with any type of pop for the Guardians last year.
Yeah, broke up the
I
brothers. Going to
almost
be interested.
just slipped up, called the Guardians by their old name out of years of conditioning and habit. Um,
Also, Gabriel Moreno being their catcher, that's an above average catcher. Maybe not as good as William Contreras, but certainly just a great option to have as a 25-year-old playing catcher.
yeah. So I'm up on them. I think they are better than the Padres. Um, I think
Yeah.
they easily get one of the three wild card spots unless, injuries.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, I'll be interested to see. I think the NL West is sending 3 teams to the playoffs.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all. Uh,
But then again, we're about to cover 3 teams in the NL East, so who knows?
right. Um, so the first team up, well, two teams together because they're projected for the same amount of wins, the Phillies and the Mets. So we'll start with the Phillies because I don't think they made quite as big of a signing as the Mets did.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, but the Phillies are a little bit of a let's run it back. We've had
yeah.
a good little run here. We have
Max Kepler's a nice addition.
a top three pitcher in the National League, top three
Hmm.
pitcher in baseball, and Zach Wheeler. Um, I mean, even after he smoked the Red Sox last year, Cora said that might be the best pitcher in baseball. He might be the guy. Which holy moly, Jack,
Yeah, I know.
the
It
Orioles
popped up.
closed. So they have perennial uh MVP candidate Bryce Harper at first base, who said, "I'll happily move to the outfield to make room for a first baseman," which perked up some
Which
people's ears.
David in our group chat correctly pointed out that's code for going get Vlad Jr.
And someone that would go get Vlad Jr. is Dave Dombrowski.
Yep, he's got
Um,
an open checkbook up there in Philadelphia.
he makes it work. You win the World Series, and then he bounces. Um, they are again just going to be there. They're just so solid.
Yep.
Again, I still don't get the Bohm home run thing. That will always not make sense to me. But Trey Turner, awesome. Brandon Stott, great second baseman. Real Muto, great catcher. And then in the outfield, Kepler, Marsh, Castellanos, all just good guys. And then also you
Yeah.
have Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, and Christian Sanchez.
And I mean, Johan Rojas will also play in the outfield, and he's more of their
Christopher Sanchez, sorry.
and Rojas is more of the go catch the ball type guy.
Yep.
Um, yeah, a really good thing. I mean, Tom, I don't know about Alec Baum. I like Baum a lot, but maybe mix in a leg day, you know?
Well, with Bohm, I think it was, just
He's
kind of a
huge.
yeah. Yes, he is 6'5", 218. With him, I think what you get, but the thing is his slash line last year is 280, 332, 448. He's not bad. It's just like you
No,
see him and
yeah.
you're like, why don't you hit 35 home runs?
Yeah, he had 15
Um,
homers, but and he
he
plays at a
had
pretty homer friendly park,
he had
but
44
he's still a
doubles
good
though.
player. He's still a good
Right.
player. Yeah.
Yeah. 3.5 WAR. They're just going to be there again. There's nothing
Of
else to
course they are.
say. And we talked about Machado, and I've said this over and over. Bryce Harper was so hyped up, and he has 100% lived up to the hype. He has
Yeah.
completely been the player that everyone was like, oh, he could be when he was 16. He has two MVPs, brought his team to the World Series. It's he is that good. And he has totally shed the annoying 20-year-old star thing he had at the beginning with the Nationals.
Yeah.
People didn't like him because he was brash and a tryhard, but the guy is it. And if you don't believe me, go watch. There's just a clip of his home run against the Padres from him walking up with his entrance music playing or his batter's music, whatever you want to call it. Hits a home run, the call, everything. It is awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, just to say that, if I the term try hard, if you're not trying hard at professional sports, you're an asshole.
All right. Also, if yeah, and if you're 20 and you're
Yeah, I mean, like,
like, but like, yeah, he just had a reputation where people were like annoyed with him, and it was like
I get it.
every single one of us would want exactly what he's
Yeah.
doing.
So it's not so much they're annoyed with him as much as they're jealous that they can't hit 330, 342 home runs and 118 RBIs
Yeah,
or 90,
he's
199 RBIs, excuse me.
he's it. He's just one of the guys,
Yep.
and
I mean, again, another guy who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated that they correctly got right. They were just like,
yeah.
hey, this guy's the future of the major leagues. And they were right.
Now we go to the Mets. If you have not heard, they signed Juan Soto to a 15-year contract for 700 and what was it, 63 million?
Hmm.
Is that the number? That's big. That is a big deal. And he joins Mark Vientos, but also Francisco Lindor. They're I don't know what to say. Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, they have the second biggest payroll. They re-signed Pete Alonso. The years, it's going to be a lot of focus on Soto. They have probably
Yeah.
the best young catcher in baseball.
Oh, close, yeah.
Um,
Eddie Diaz is back healthy, totally healthy in the back of their bullpen.
it's going to be a circus if they don't start off hot, which they
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
last year.
No,
And then they
Grimace.
turned it around and were a miracle team that was super fun to watch.
So
Um,
just going
Go ahead.
down the list here. We're going Juan Soto to Francisco Lindor to Francisco Alvarez to Mark Vientos, who has a real chance to break the F out this year. Brandon Nimmo, who on this podcast you and I have both kind of said, really? But he's there. I mean, he's going to
He's
hit 250, 260. He had a three
yeah.
war. Like, and then Pete Alonso, who, surprisingly for me, got the most overrated in baseball award from me last year.
Mm.
Um, I don't think he's gonna hit 53 home runs, but he's gonna hit over 30 and be in the middle of that lineup and a guy you can't make a mistake to, and obviously a clutch hitter because he killed the Brewers last year. But um, just a lineup that I really go down and see almost no holes, and they're only slated for 87 wins. Now, I think that's the conservative approach of projecting that Fangraphs sometimes take. But if I'm being quite honest with you, and I know they're going to get at some point a fully healthy Ronald Acuna Jr. back, but I think this team is better than the Braves.
Yeah. I don't think I'm there yet because I think they are extremely top heavy. Um,
I don't know, man. You go down that list. You have Jeff McNeil, Jose Siri, Jesse Winker. Like there are guys that are major leaguers there. Jeff McNeil won a
yeah,
batting title, and he's like projected as their seventh best player right now.
yeah. If Vientos keeps going, because he had a great postseason and great run at the end of the year. He's 25. He hit wait, wrong spot. 27 homers last year. So if he ticks up again and Alonso hits 40 home runs, I see it. But after Senga, who was hurt all last year, it's Sean Manaea,
Yeah,
which
that's true.
their
I mean,
pitching staff.
Clay Holmes is a question mark.
Yeah,
Nobody
so
knows. Masataka Yoshida broke his brain as a closer,
yeah,
and
that's a
now
fact.
he's going to be a starter. So that's a question mark. Uh, I'm interested in it, but yeah, Kodai Senga, friend of the pod. I say
Not
that.
really a
I don't think
friend of
he's
the
our friend.
pod.
We're big fans. We're big fans
Yeah.
of the Ghost Fork.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to a pitching matchup between the Braves and the Mets and the Phillies, maybe um maybe the Mets are third there.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know about that. The pitching on the Phillies is better. We're gonna get into the Braves now,
Well, let's just
but
get into the Braves
yeah,
because they
let's do
are
it.
the next team and the they're projected for the second best record in the NL. So the Braves are going to their pitchers are Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, and Spencer Strider's coming back. Chris Sale won the Cy Young. But we know the Chris Sale story. We know it. Don't get me wrong. We know the Chris Sale story. Uh he went on a pot. Chris Sale, he says the right things.
Sure,
He
always
said
has.
he finds his 7 years in Boston as a disappointment. And he said I was only really healthy for 2017, which I believe he struck out 300 guys. Or was that 20? Yeah, I think so. And then he was like in half of 2018, and whoever was interviewing him was like, "But you won a World Series." He's like, "I get that. And yes, that's true." And he was like, "But the rest of the time, I wasn't good." But if Jack, you were just saying a lineup without holes. If we can go Sean Murphy, Matt Olson,
Yeah,
Ozzy Albies,
yeah.
Orlando Arcia, Austin Riley, Jerickson Profar, Michael Harris the second, and Ronald Acuna Jr., that is better all around than the Mets. The peak, the very peak, if you're listing players in the NL East, are you are you going, this is how I would go for the top three. We'll just do that. Soto, Harper, Acuna.
In some order, healthy Acuna probably. Ooh,
See?
goes back to the big 2018 debate. Um, yeah,
Oh, I
Healthy Acuna and Juan Soto are 1A and 1B, with Bryce Harper directly behind them at 2.
so then my question to you is the next player on that list Francisco Lindor?
That's a great question.
Because
Yeah,
the
probably.
other options are Trey Turner,
Yeah, I put Francisco Lindor over him.
sure. But then here's my point. After
I
you
know what you're gonna
say
say.
Trey Turner and Francisco Lindor, when is it not a Brave?
Oh, Schwarber's in the mix as a hitter, as a pure hitter. Kyle Schwarber's in the mix. I don't know. Austin Riley's in there. Matt Olson is certainly in there. Ozzy Albies has kind of ticked down a bit, but he's up there. And this is just position players, but yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Um, Vientos could be good, but I don't think he's there yet. and then some guys on the Phillies. Um,
Like now you're talking about the
yeah,
Real Mutos and the Bohms.
yeah, yeah, you are.
So that I guess that's my point. And then if you're doing it pitching wise, Zach Wheeler's top. And if Strider comes back healthy, is anyone on
Yeah.
the Mets or another Philly above Sale and Strider? Oh, hold on. We haven't talked about DH Marcelo Zuna, who had 37 home runs last year.
Yeah. Ranger Suarez had a really good year last year for the Phillies. On the
My apologies,
Mets,
39
though,
homers.
Kodai Senga is probably fifth, and those four guys, Wheeler, Suarez, Sale, and Strider, are above Senga.
And
So yeah, I get what you're saying.
Reynaldo Lopez had
Also
an
had a
under
great
two
year.
ERA.
Yeah.
So I just think right now, and Raisel Iglesias might be the best closer out of the teams. Well, Diaz probably, but I just think right
Healthy Eddie
now,
Diaz.
yeah, on the whole, the Braves are the best AL East team. But they need to they need Acuna to be healthy, and he's coming back from a torn ACL. All right. And then to wrap it up, none of this discussion mattered because the Dodgers exist. As we
The
touched on
the
last year, they signed
the
Roki Sasaki.
the rich get richer. Like
Yeah.
they did it again.
Blake
It's
Snell.
the it's I think you've pointed this out. It's the Jesse Pinkman. How does he keep getting away with this?
Yeah.
Because they don't pay any of their money to their players when like during the year. And they won the World Series. You know, I don't care what any Yankee fan will tell you. They won the World Series pretty damn convincingly after losing Shohei Ohtani with a torn labrum in game 2 or game 1, whatever that was. Um, Freddie Freeman killed them. He
Yeah.
murdered the New York Yankees. And then in the offseason, they reloaded their banged up pitching staff with Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki.
And Shohei Ohtani.
Right. Didn't even talk about how that is going. So
It's
it's Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Roki Sasaki, and Shohei Ohtani, with the possibility of Clayton Kershaw coming in at any time. Is it the same Clayton Kershaw that's been there for his career? No. But he's their sixth starter right now in terms of talent. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
and they they scaled him back a tiny bit in
And
spring
they got
training
Tanner
because
Scott.
they have that. And they got Tanner Scott, who is the best reliever on the market. All right, Jack, you have another meeting, so I will talk to you next week.
All right, Tom. Thanks so much. Hooray, baseball.